Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, welcome to another TV episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is jumping through time with me tonight?
This is the clone of Joseph Butler. Please call me Joe.
But you gotta remember, you look completely different than your other clones.
And this is Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com. And I did a full 180. Crazy. Just thinking about the way I was.
Okay, first I gotta say, I love the music parts in this show that we're gonna talk about. So I gotta get it out there. I actually really like that part too that you're talking about. So we are here to talk about because Patreon people voted for this, and I was very upset when it first won. Less upset because I actually enjoyed it. We're here to talk about the Resident Evil TV series from 2022 made by Netflix. That is really weird because if you search Resident Evil 2022, it doesn't come up first.
What comes up?
Just Resident Evil 4 stuff and other things. What was announced in Resident Evil in 2022. That's what comes up first. Like, this should have really been named something else. Like, couldn't they have given it some kind of title besides just Resident Evil? Like, Resident Evil something?
I guess they didn't want to get confused with, like, the movies, maybe? Because the movies are named almost pretty much everything.
Yeah, but it's just weird. But yeah, I came into we were covering the show, and it was a show that I had no intention of ever watching, and I have a strange feeling about it now.
I will half-heartedly agree with you because I didn't like this show when this first came out. I actually got 3 episodes in, I stopped watching it, and then I watched it a little bit later, and then I finished it very quickly. I don't even remember even what happened in the last episode, but I rewatched it, kind of skimmed through it, and I was like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. So
no, it's not. I mean, it's a weird show. It's a weird idea of Resident Evil where you take this technically, well, it's never going to count ever again, so it doesn't matter, but the show was canceled after 1 season, which I'm actually sad about, but we'll get there. It's essentially, it takes place in the Resident Evil game universe if after Resident Evil 5, if 6 and so on never happen. So
also if 1 and 2 happen differently, because they don't really explain why Umbrella is in Africa now in the show.
Yes,
takes place?
South Africa.
Yeah, but Umbrella doesn't exist after 3. They in the gameway wise, their stocks fall and the company gets dissolved. So it doesn't make sense in the show why they're still around if it takes place after 5.
In this universe, that didn't happen.
Place in post-COVID time because they mention it.
Yeah.
And I guess if it is in the universe, and I guess technically in 7, there's the blue umbrella.
Yes, but the blue umbrella is not. This is like they took pieces of the game world and made their own universe and their own thing.
Yeah, it's essentially it. It doesn't really. It just. We're taking things that people know from the movies because that's what most people are going to gravitate to. This is I have no idea who this show is for.
I don't know either. I mean, it was weirdly because when Blair did his intro, for those that got the reference, it's hilarious. There's a part way late in the show where someone does a little dance into a music number to a part, and it honestly makes perfect sense in the context of what's happening in the show.
But does it?
I think it does. Because she's a puppet at the time.
It's the best dance number since Michael C. Hall and Gamer.
I mean, I thought it was hilarious when they had that scene. My only issue is why does she look at the exactly same age as she did 15 years ago? But that was my issue.
Biohazard chemicals.
Okay. That was my only problem with it. But no. It's just, the show makes no sense where it belongs. And I agree with you, Blair. I don't know who the hell this show is for. I mean, nobody now because it doesn't exist. Because they canceled.
I can answer that question for you.
Sure.
So if you're listening to this podcast comes in after the announcement that they're getting rid of Henry Cavill as the Geralt in The Witcher.
Oh yeah, the same day.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with one of my friends about it because apparently the creators make fun of him because he wants to stick to the books, and they're like, oh, we don't want to stick to the books. We just kind of want to loosely base ourselves off the canon that we're going off of. So, and apparently it's because Netflix has some deal where you can only kind of take the idea from things, but you can't fully copy it.
Oh.
And that's
what I wonder about this too, because the production company, I think, like Netflix is the distributor, but I still think that it's like Continental Films, who were the production company who did the movies and the reboot movie from last year. So, like, I don't know how all this is tangled up.
It's in a very weird. I mean, I feel like it makes more sense. At the same time, it answers me. I have more questions.
It's just supposed to be a weird form of like, because I've also heard bad things about the Cowboy Bebop, and I can know what this show suffers from like two things. One is that they try to really piggyback off of the Resident Evil idea, but it's you kind of do, you kind of don't, and that's really what the issue that the show has. But there are some things that I do like about the show.
I mean, you could honestly come into the show without having knowledge of Resident Evil itself. Maybe you've seen a movie or two because you're introduced to characters that are completely new.
Yeah.
You know, Billy. God, what the hell? Billy and Jade are the two girls that that are the main characters in the show, which are the daughters of Wesker, but not the Wesker that you think it is.
Yes, Dante and Virgil. We all know.
But they don't have any powers, really.
Yeah, I had a theory back when the show came out because the Devil May Cry was originally Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to have like the devil triggers were supposed to be a BOW transformation and all this other stuff.
Oh.
That's where the show was going, but
that would have been cool. Like I would have liked to have seen the girls be like more superhuman because they aren't really.
Oh, see, I wish the girls were just not in it at all because I think they're the least interesting part of the show and it focuses on them, especially the future stuff. Like, I think after the movies where it spent so much time in the apocalypse, like 4 of the 6 movies, I don't understand why this show then doubles down on it again.
Because it just doesn't know what to do. I mean, like, this show, for those that haven't seen it, every episode jumps back and forth between 2022, when they're both like 13-year-old, 14-year-old girls, and 2036, I think it is, or something.
Yeah.
I have it in front of me, but I did not bother to read very well. But so, I mean, it jumps back and forth, and like Blair's saying, you have part of it, 2036, part of it is in a apocalyptic future, and part of it's in New Raccoon City. It's really weird the way they do it.
Also, I also think that one of the weird things is they have a way to make a really interesting show, and someone's pitched the idea, and I feel like it's always just people who don't know anything about the series are the reasons why they don't want to do anything. Because they had an idea for a show which was, it takes place like in between Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, and it's like a week, and it's supposed to follow like a detective, and he's following up on like people being eaten alive and the virus basically slowly spreading throughout Raccoon City. But
that would be good with characters that just don't matter. So you know, who maybe a name drop Jill or, you know, RPD or something, but you really aren't involved with those characters, and that would be fine.
You have the really silly part where there's an argument between like this private detective and Chief Irons. Like, yeah, it makes sense, but they never want to go for anything like that. And it's just always just, it's Resident Evil, you know, just make it like The Walking Dead, post-apocalyptic future. Everyone loves The Walking Dead.
I mean, her future is bleak as hell, though. I got to say that. Woo.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, I did like the idea because in this you're introduced very early to the Zeros, which are like zombies, but they're smarter. They're not smarter, but it's like Dawn of the Dead zombies from the Zack Snyder remake movie where they can run.
It's YA zombies because like that's what this very much feels like because it's
a young adult.
Yeah, because in YA stuff it's always like, it's not a vampire, it's a blank. And now they're just like the Zeros. I'm like, they're just zombies.
Yeah. Just
call them zombies. And one thing straight at the bat in the first episode, man, the zombie makeup in this is terrible. Like it is so bad.
I liked it. I mean, I went into the show with no expectations. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And I left actually really amused.
I had to rewind a bunch as I kept looking at my phone.
You can, though. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything if you miss stuff in the show. Not like it matters. Like, it's a weird show where it's just a lot of, like, things happen. It reminded me, as a kid, I wrote a book that I didn't publish or anything, of course, but I wrote a book about zombies, and I was trying to, like, I wanted to write a novel, and it reminded me of that. She goes from point A to point B, and bad shit happens. And she goes to the traditional of video game places in the future. Oh, she gets she fights a giant worm, gets knocked out by the giant worm. All right, gets rescued by people who are living in this town. But oh wait, no, they're actually trying to turn her in to get her killed. Oh, bounty. Oh, she escaped. Now she's in a tunnel. Like, it just felt like it went from one thing to the next. And I mean, I enjoyed it completely for some reason, but it isn't. None of it was important. That makes sense.
So where the points made up and nothing matters.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, especially because I watched the show after I'd already been canceled, and so I'm like, the show better not end on a cliffhanger. I'm like, the show better not end with a season 2 setup because I wouldn't be upset. Well, spoiler alert, it does.
Well,
Yeah, don't ever end your thing on an Ada Wong cliffhanger, guys. You're 0 for 2 on that one.
Oh God, this did end in Ada Wong.
Yes, it does. She gets a letter to go see Ada when they escape New Raccoon City, and they also never explain why in one of the early episodes when she gets captured in the city she goes to, she has a tattoo like she's World War II's death camp survivor, and I'm like, okay, so at some point when they escape New Raccoon City, something's going to happen and they get tattooed. That is never explained. When they leave New Raccoon City in the end, they just get in a car and drive off with a fake Wesker. So it doesn't. Yeah, I was like, damn, you guys set up stuff that I'm curious about, but I'll never know. That was one of my complaints. That's not their fault, but don't end on Ada Wong.
Yeah, there's also a really weird thing where I think I know what a lot of people have with the shows, which we were talking about a little bit earlier. There's always a weird thing because the Cowboy Bebop show also suffered from this, and I'm worried for another anime, the One Piece live action show coming out. I feel like they have a really decent script, and then either some kind of Netflix bigwig or even a different bigwig's like, this is okay, but it needs some millennial humor. Sir, do you even know what millennial humor is? No, just add some like furry jokes and a joke
TikTok
about SpongeBob and some TikTok dances, and the kids will like it.
Oh God, like there's that one comment where she's like, I'm gonna go watch some Zootopia porn, right? I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
What the fuck? It's so fucking weird. I mean, I was just weird that I was enjoying parts of it. Like, it has. I think the show would have been better, in my opinion, if it didn't jump through time back and forth. I would rather have half the show be them just as kids, and then you get to a point when they leave, then you get to the future. But then you couldn't have a season 2. So,
well, the thing of what's frustrating is that the whole concept of why the first games are appealing is that they take place in regular places. I know they go global and all that stuff, but the best Resident Evil is it's in a house or it's in a city that that looks like your own backyard, and a bad thing happens, and that's what I found scary when I first played Resident Evil. I'm like, this is not going to happen. Well, I mean, it might happen nowadays, but and the thing about this is it takes place in this weird sterile gated community because it just looks cheap. It's uninteresting to see, and then it just goes into another bleak future. And I feel like the whole zombie thing has kind of been played out a little. And then it has these kids, because you have to have we have to get the young ones, and then we have to do the Resident Evil stuff. But the thing about they kind of pepper this Resident Evil mystery throughout the entire show. But if you know Resident Evil, either from the movies or the games, you already know what the answer is.
Umbrella.
Yeah, because they're trying to figure out what happened to Raccoon City. It's it blew up. We know this.
I found that weird.
So much time, and it's if it blows up in the second movie, it blows up in the games. Why are we spending so much time on this?
That's what's some weird stuff about it.
I think the idea is supposed to be, which is I rewatching it, I guess I figured out. I guess the difference between this and the show is that Umbrella did a better job in hiding it in the show. So it's why Raccoon City blow up? Oh, it's a gas leak, it's whatever. No one really cares. Umbrella proved that they helped out and that they didn't have anything to do with it, so it's fine. As opposed to the games where I think I don't think they ever say if they, because the movie mixes in a lot of my brain a lot too. But and Resident Evil 4 explains after Raccoon City blew up, everyone knew it was Umbrella and they tried to hide it, but they didn't, and then they got destroyed by their stock. So that's why Umbrella doesn't exist anymore.
And this show posits, so Resident Evil 4 leads into Resident Evil 5, and this show references Resident Evil 5, so therefore Resident Evil 4 happens So it's very confusing.
When does it reference 5? Are you like the volcano? Does it reference the volcano thing?
Yeah, like he specific. Well, I guess in later on because we'll get there, but it references how Wesker died.
That is weird. I don't know why they didn't like just take what they had and go their own direction.
Because they're trying to satisfy everyone, and by that they satisfy no one. Like they have a kid named Billy who looks like Billie Eilish, and the show opens with a Billie Eilish song.
I like
So it's
that,
like,
by the way.
There's the kids, and we're gonna have the Resident Evil like stuff peppered in, and then it's like the zombie thing for The Walking Dead, and it's like it's almost just like I honestly think the production company has the Resident Evil license. And they want to keep making things because the movies made like combined a couple of $1 billion. And if they stop making things, then they lose that, even though everything since the 6th movie, which at this point has been Welcome to Raccoon City, which I thought was fine, and
That's
this
fine.
show, but both were financial disasters.
Yeah, that could be a big part of like the rights thing. Is like if you stop doing stuff with it, you lose the rights, so you just don't stop. I mean, that's how Fantastic Four was. They had to keep making movies because they didn't want to get with the right.
There's a rumor we'll see Doctor Doom in Wakanda Forever. So
I need to go see that. I need to see that on time
I just
Not-
bought my tickets.
and not
I've
wait.
had
like
my
I've
tickets
done.
for a while now.
I never saw Thor, the Thor: Love and Thunder movie in theaters. I still haven't seen it, even on Disney Plus. I've been meaning to. I just don't care enough. I guess
It's okay at best.
You don't need to.
I love Ragnarok.
Step down from Ragnarok.
Yeah. This is a
That's what
step down from like the
Dark
Dark
World.
World almost.
One of the worst movies in the MCU. Okay.
Well, so we'll get into more of the show. So the first episode and all that. But one of the other things I want to talk about, which pissed a lot of people off in ways that make sense, and people were like, I guess they were just mad because we made him to a black guy. I think Lance Reddick does great as Wesker in this.
Oh, he's a great actor in this. I mean, it did bother me a little bit that he's a black Wesker, and I don't mean to sound racist. I'm not racist. It bothered me because you're using the same canon in the video games, but you're not. Once you got to the point where you figure out, okay, they're not, I'm like, that's fine. Because originally I thought, okay, it's a clone or it's some other thing, or they, input his brain into somebody else, so that made sense to me. Well, he just has a different body. Okay, then as the show progressed, and they're like, no, that wasn't me, but we sound the same. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then when he shows up midway near the end of the show, when you finally start putting everything together, I'm like, okay, I see where you're going. I'm like, that's fine. But no, Lance Reddick is amazing in this.
And that's the thing, is like he's great. And then it's like, okay, he's here and he is trying so hard, and he was really grateful for this role and put everything into it. But then it's like, okay, well, let's go focus on these obnoxious kids. It's like, no, stay with this guy.
Yeah, he's
interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
he put something out on he put something out on Twitter when the show got announced, and apparently people flooded his Twitter like, just because the show was canceled didn't mean we didn't like you as Wesker, and he like thanked a bunch of the fans and like, thank you for giving me this opportunity and all that. But
he's doing a great job, and like I like the fact that they didn't cast someone that you would expect for Wesker. It just was weird to me at first because I'm like, I don't actors change all the time. That doesn't bother me. I don't care, but it just felt very jarring to me at first. I'm like, this is confusing, but it worked just fine. He was the right choice.
Also, the reason why you're confused, Mike, you have internal feelings that make sense, is because in 5, you have Wesker, who is a white man who's invading Africa and talking about the pureness of like the virus. So it makes sense that he'd be a white dude because he's got kind of that Aryan feel to him.
Well, yeah, no, he does, and it just kind of threw me off because it's like the character has already been established, and you're using the same character and you look completely different. I mean, that's all. Like, I mean, it just was a little odd. I mean, nothing wrong. I mean, it was just odd to me at first. I'm like, okay, where are you going with this? Because my assumption when this show first got announced and we saw that stuff, that this wasn't Wesker, this was somebody else, or somehow his conscience was put into a different body. I never once did I believe it was the same guy. And it's not. It's a clone of the guy that was abducted by Umbrella. God, this show is weird to explain sometimes.
It's pretty easy to explain.
I find it weird.
So
but
you guys watched it recently. What year did the flashback scene take place in?
2022? I have a
No, I mean where they established that he's like one of 3 clones and Blade walks in.
Oh, it was like 2005, I think, which is weird.
yeah.
So he shouldn't be in the blade gear. He should just be in the suit.
Again,
like Wesker only wore like because I'm being cheekish, and I guess that's bad because they have a scene where like the actual Wesker comes in, but he's in the full trench coat, and just the way his hair is done up, he looks like Blade.
They gave him a flat top.
And like, Lance Reddick, I think he was on G4, and he was like, "Man, I looked at myself," and he's like, "I am Blade." But like, because in Resident Evil 4, he's just in like a suit, and that's what he is in like Umbrella Chronicles.
RE5, right?
Yeah, like he's only in that tactical gear in 5, but I think it's just like, oh, we have to. It's one of those things where directors say we're doing stuff for the fans, where it's like, okay, we saw a picture and then we're gonna do this, and it'll be like, see, it's a thing you like, but it's like, no, because it doesn't have any context as to why it's here. You're only doing this.
It was really okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. Like that doesn't really fit. I mean, I also really had a problem with the time jumps constantly. I mean, it was easy to tell just because they're kids versus not kids, but it was just weird to me because I'm like, I cared more about the future stuff than I did about the kid stuff at time. I mean, the kid stuff could be really interesting in some episodes when you're going back in time and you're like, oh, what's going on with Wesker? Why does he have a secret lab in the basement? Why is this like? And then it would have dull stuff, and then I was just like, I don't care.
So I know one way they could have fixed this, and it's really easily, instead of having it flip-flop every episode, it's things like, 8 episodes?
Yeah.
You have, like, the first 3 episodes be like, or first 4 episodes be like the whole, like, oh, future stuff, this is what's going on in the future, but we don't know why. And then whenever it does the weird, like, the Jade reveal in the future, when she takes her helmet off, you don't see her face. You have it cut to black, and then have like the other 2.5 episodes be about the past, and then have the last 2 episodes be about the future. Because this whole flip flopping thing doesn't work, and
that could have worked.
And it's the same problem as Obi-Wan. Like in the first episode, you have the whole situation, everything go down. You're introduced to the characters, and the episode has it to where Billy gets bit, and then it goes to the future where Jade's running from Umbrella. And there's a fat guy's like, oh, your sister wants to talk to you. I know she's not dead then, even though she got bit. So I'm not going to think that she's going to die anytime soon.
Yeah, I didn't like that because when you see her get bit for the first time by the dog, which, again, the dog was cool, even though it's like, your security sucks, guys. Like, really, really sucked.
I mean, it's Umbrella. How many labs did they get blown up by, like, college students?
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. And I mean, I thought for sure she's dead because she's bitten by the T virus, or her body was going to fight it off. But I thought she might be immune to it because she is one of Wesker's kids. I thought, okay, he did something. But then you have her getting sick throughout the show and almost changing. You have the Tijuana story of this random reporter being like, I know what happened in Tijuana. And just, which never goes anywhere. It really doesn't. The whole point of that is just to make the girls question their father. Yes. And then I was just like, so weird. Such a weird show to jump back and forth. But I was always entertained. I was always curious where it was going to go, and I found that strange too. But I cared.
And I wonder, because I was watching it, and then when it came out, because I remember when they announced it, and they just had like, here's the cast of people, and I saw the photo, and I was like, these could be anyone. Like, here's the people, and I'm like, they just look like people. Like, what is Resident Evil about this? And then leading up to it, there was actually some halfway decent reviews. Like, I'm not sure who wrote the review for IGN, but they're just like, they gave it a 7 point something. And so it made me kind of excited to watch it. And maybe that's my fault for having expectations. And then I watched like 2 or 3 episodes, and it was mostly just like staring at my phone because I was bored to tears or annoyed. And then people were like, oh, stick to episode whatever. And I'm just tired of people saying, get to hour 15, or like get to episode 5. And it's like, listen, time is valuable. There's like much better shows here to watch. I'm not going to like hate watch like 5 episodes of this. Like, this is why I hate the whole Netflix binge model. It's like putting it out once in a while.
I mean, for me, when I watch this show, because like before we watched this, you told me, do something else while you're watching it. So I'm like, okay. I mean, one thing I do every day of my life almost is I edit. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go edit. This was a great show to watch while editing because I didn't miss anything. I was able to concentrate on both things and not get bored of either. And that was a nice change. That was a nice, like, it was perfect for that. It was the perfect kind of show to have on while you're doing something else.
But just think about all the actors and performers and makeup people and effects artists, and they work on the show for hours. And the best thing that can be said about it is it's a great distraction to have on in the background.
I mean, I really enjoyed it watching it. To be fair, I watch all my TV like that. To be fair, almost. So it wasn't really a cut down to the show in that case, but it worked. It was like perfect for that for me.
I also had it on while I was playing at work, so you should really advertise your show as our TV show. It's good if you have ADD.
I mean, there's just so many, but there were cool scenes. Like, I want to say this movie made Lickers the coolest I've ever seen them.
They're pretty cool in Welcome to Raccoon City.
I haven't watched enough of that. I watched parts of it on a plane, but I never finished it. I gotta get back to it. But that whole scene where like they go in a tunnel because they're trying to get across to a different city or something. She's trying to escape, and they're trying to get by, and they're trying to avoid Umbrella. And you have a cool scene where they're in this train, they're in this bus, and they're like, okay, don't say anything in this certain part of the tunnel. And all of a sudden, Umbrella comes up behind them, making noise, and sirens going, and Lickers just come out of the woodwork and just start murdering people. And I'm
just burnt out by the liquor, because there's so many Resident Evil BOWs and like these shows and movies. They always go to the liquor. Like, make a hunter, man.
Yeah, I was a little bummed that I didn't get hunters or anything else, and all we did get. But I was just, I don't know, just there was something to me. That scene was really cool, and I was surprised how cool it was because I had no expectations. I mean, at that point in the show, I'm kind of like, I'm just watching it, and I'm enjoying myself, but no expectations. And then this kind of shook me, like when you just watch, and then you have a giant spider. Like, I like the little stuff like that. I wanted Jade to be superhuman, which she was not, but
I think she does fine.
She does. I like adult Jade and adult Billy a lot better than kid Jade and kid Billy, that's for sure.
There's something that's not explained very well in the show too about them, because I think like what is it that so you have the first episode which is also a really weird character setup as well, where you have them and they're introduced them as kids and they go to school, and then you have like Jade like, oh, I'm such a good person and people like me because I'm a people person. And then Billy just gets massively bullied by like a shit kid for no reason.
Well, yeah, and then she's like, we're sisters, but we're not, and we're twins, but we had different mothers. We're, like, why are you even telling people this? Like,
yeah.
It's like, these are things you just keep to yourself. Like, yeah, we're sisters, we're twins. Okay, whatever. Like, why are you going into this? But
then you have like this really fucked up scene later. And also, to be fair, if you are vegan, you deserve to be bullied, but that's a whole different story. You have a moment where I think like she's not in class, and then you see someone in a mask come up and like beat her face in with a brick. And later on in the season, you find out that it was Jade, but I always felt like it was supposed to be implied that it was Billy, because later on you find out she actually does have like weird anger issues.
Yeah, because she's infected. Was it the infection or just in general?
In general, it's just kind of fucked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that was the effect of everything he did to them.
Yeah. Oh, it's the Wesker gene.
Yeah. Okay.
The Wesker gene makes you an asshole.
I can buy that. I mean, look at Wesker.
Which one?
Yeah. The real one in the games.
Well, there's like no, but in the context of the games, there was a bunch too. Like there's one in Revelations 2. It was just like they kidnap a bunch of people and all gave them that name.
I haven't gotten that far. Okay, I didn't know. I haven't played Revelations 2 yet.
Yeah, don't spoil Revelations. Mike hasn't played it yet. That's like the best.
Next year. Not my fault. I should have played it by now. I mean, it's not his fault. I should have played it by now. It's been out for 10 years at this point or close? Maybe not 10 years, but
not 10 years, but it's 8 or so.
A while.
Yeah.
I need to play it. I finally played Revelations 1, so I'm gonna do Revelation 2 next year for Halloween or some point before, because I think it's time for me to play more of this damn series. And I have people who want to cover it with me, so I'm trying to knock out the whole damn series at this point. Games, movies, everything. TV shows that nobody cares about. All that.
Stuff your mom finds.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I did like the way that this... I mean, I didn't really think about it, but it makes sense that, like you said earlier, they were going for that millennial TikTok thing, where they has lots of scenes that have music that just kind of happens along with the scene. And I really, really like that. Like, I like that dance scene. I liked a lot of weird shit that they have with the music. And I'm just like, this is, to me, for something, it was just, I really like when movies do that. And I really like when the show did it. Every time. I was on board. I can't tell you why, because I can't explain it, but I was on board.
See, we live in a world where James Gunn exists, so if you're not going to like meticulously craft your soundtrack to your show or movie, like don't even bother.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, it was nowhere good like that, but it worked for me for the most part, and I enjoyed myself. But it had its jarring moments. Like, I mean, I think it does a good job of showing Billy kind of getting more and more crazy as the show progresses. I thought that was good. In the future, there were some other parts that I really like that they did. I felt like they touched on most things that you would have been curious about. Like, you get to see different cities. You get to see a regular city that Umbrella runs. You get to see a camp, a free post of just weird ass people that all get murdered. You get to see a lot of different stuff, and I felt like it did a decent job of showing you the apocalypse world. Like, you have the fact that like she, is part of this thing called a university, which is people living on a ship, which makes sense in a zombie apocalypse. You'd be living on a ship.
French would create a zombie cult.
Okay, we got it. Okay, I got to talk about this part. This made me happy. This whole part did. Yes, the zombie cult thing, but they're in a fucking Nazi bunker from World War II.
Was
awesome.
it? I didn't know that.
They one point. Well, one I could tell it's France, and Germany had France for a long time and held on most of the war. And they made a lot of bases there too, which is all factual. But during that part, when they go into place, it purposely shows on a sign that's in German, and I forget what it says. I forgot what it meant. I looked it up, but it's a German word, and it was something that was in a lot of German bases at that time. So it was just so cool to me that this idea that they're in a old Nazi, a Nazi base that they took over and then made a cult, and like they had the Zeros, like the idea that they have the Zeros working for them, because like the whole thing when the show starts off is she's trying to see if the Zeros, the zombie things, have any intelligence, so I can find a way to control them or find a way to coexist with them. And then she finds
phone and call your Aunt Alicia, bub.
And she finds a queen, apparently. Oh, I really liked it. I liked the zombie cult stuff.
But see, all this stuff is just it's just been so
stuff.
Played out, like a zombie apocalypse, and to do another show. Like, that's what I liked about Welcome to Raccoon City, is that after so long, and I mean, that movie is flawed to all hell. But like, at least it's just like, okay, we're in a town that looks like an actual town. There's no like zombie apocalypse. Like, I mean, Walking Dead's been on for like what feels like forever since I've been alive. And there's like a million different spin-offs, and it's always like, oh, we're going to get to some town. There's going to be some real messed up people. And it's like, okay, it's like nothing about this. It was just hitting a lot of check boxes and not doing them as well as what already exists. At least that's how I felt.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Also, full offense to The Walking Dead. I know a lot of people that were really into that show and then stopped because they got sick of being depressed all the time about watching that show.
Same. I was one of them. I really liked it up till season 6 or 7 when Negan shows up and they're fighting him, and I just was done. I fell off.
Yeah, I think you got a little bit maybe further than I did. It was the part where the girl dies and she gets shot in the head because they're trying to save everybody, saves Chris from a hospital.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was a little farther than you. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then the next episode is another character dying, and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I'm fucking.
No, it gets so depressing by the end, and I just was done. I really liked that show at one time, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I can't handle really depressing things like that. And this Resident Evil show surprisingly wasn't as depressing, even though the world's terrible.
Yeah, this show has sprinkles of references too, because since we're talking about the zombie cult, there's like a really weird moment that was like, oh, this is overdoing it. Surprisingly, that's the moment where I'm like, this is overdoing it. Where they had a guy that was dressed up like the chainsaw guy from Dr. Salvatore from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. And he's cutting up the Umbrella soldiers to feed the Zero Mama, the Zero Queen.
Yeah,
that was a little strange. I mean, I thought it was cool, but yeah. I mean, I liked the peppering stuff that they did in this. I thought it was actually good. I mean, one thing I thought was interesting with the future too is they hold off on a long time before they introduce Billy into the future, because they even said, "Well, she's dead." She'll be like, "Oh, I saw Billy." Oh, like you were saying earlier, and she's like, she died. Like, I'm like, I thought it was like maybe she's infected or something, so she's like a zombie creature. But this whole time, she's just part of Umbrella. But it was just weird. Like when you finally see her for the first time, then she acts like, "Oh, I need to be here," and you find out as the show progresses near the end that she's Ashley, the one controlling everything.
And she spontaneously jump races.
Yeah. There's also a lot of stuff in the show because a lot of the one of the other issues that I had that I think is fine, but you really shouldn't do it is they tease more of other seasons in this because there's like a whole thing where it's like, oh, dad died, so you should have been there, but it's like, which dad are they talking about? Are they talking about our Wesker? Are they talking about the original Wesker? Because I think the original Wesker gets away, doesn't he?
Oh no, he blows up. You're talking about?
He gets buried in the rubble of the place or something.
No,
yeah, he's dead.
The original. Oh wait, no, they say he got bumped in a volcano. Never mind.
Yeah, no, you see his dead body.
Christian Sheva shot him with a rocket launcher. At least that's what they're implying.
But what is it? They talk about how whenever she sees Billy, she's like, last time I saw you, you were 18, pregnant, and your 2 teeth were kicked in, and and they're still together at the end of the season. So
yeah,
it kind of implies like, oh, they still hang out, and they're 14. So if she saw her at 18, there's still like 4 years worth of shit to go down, but that's not going anywhere. And then
it's just what happens with these shows now, and it's getting frustrating because I remember last year they did the terrible Snake Eyes movie, and it's just like it's awful. Like, it's so boring, and then at the end it's like, see you in the next one. When it turns into a G.I. Joe movie, it's like, no, you had your chance to be good now. Like, don't make something that's not great and then expect it to be great later. Like, make something as if this is your one and only shot to get it right. Not like, oh, don't worry, like we'll get a second season. It's Netflix. They greenlight everything. It's like, they used to, but they don't have the money for that anymore.
So wait.
They're not the only gun in town anymore.
So wait, they don't, what is it? The G.I. Joe movie is not based off the old movies. It's a whole new movie.
Yeah.
I didn't fucking know.
I didn't see it or care enough. That's weird. I guess that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
There was another scene that Joe made fun of before we watched the show, or during our watch before we recorded, where you have this guy, the Umbrella guy, and at one point when they're in the prison by the zombie cult and they're going to be killed, and Umbrella breaks in, you have him go all, like you said, all John Wick on everybody and just start murdering people.
he like legitimately just starts whooping people's asses, and I'm like, oh cool, they have a fat guy whooping ass. This is great. 'Cause I'm a fat guy.
Do you watch What We Do in the Shadows?
No, I need to though.
You should, because there is some great representation, and the guy who did it did his crunches, and it's incredible. And the show is just amazing all around.
Speaking of representation, and I'm allowed to say this because of who I am, I'm kind of disappointed. Who's the main? What was her name? Evelyn White, because she's based off another character.
Evelyn Marcus. She is Marcus's daughter from Resident Evil 0. That Marcus that became Leechman.
I'm very disappointed because the whole thing is like, look, guys, we have inclusion. She's a lesbian. She has a wife, and they have a kid together. And then like, it's like, okay, that's not inclusion if she's the head of like the main bad guy business. And then later on, you find out she's drugging her wife. Like, Jesus Christ, show. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's not very good representation.
I was just trying to get the timeline for that because Marcus died in the 80s. I don't really like Resident Evil 0. I've only played it a few times. I know like Wesker and Birkin kill him, and then he gets resurrected by like the Queen Leech. So I'm just trying to figure out like, one, I think it's gross that they pull these characters in the games and presume they have sex. It's really weird. Like, I don't buy in the games that Wesker had a kid, and I don't buy that this person is the granddaughter of a Leech man. Like, these people are like,
this is her daughter, not granddaughter.
Oh, it's his daughter?
Oh, it's his daughter? I thought it was
I'm pretty sure it's his daughter, not granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
No, it's granddaughter because
it is granddaughter?
Yeah, because in the last episode or something, she's like, I've been trying to get my legacy back for my grandfather for years or something like that.
I thought it was the father. Okay, never mind. That makes more sense then. Okay. All right. Still just weird.
So
it's just fucking weird. Her character was weird too. Like, as the show progresses, at one point she shoots her son right in the head near the end of the show.
Yeah, it's the ending. It's the ending of the show.
I mean, but still, I was like, what the fuck? She just shoots him right in the head because he's infected. He's like, I can cure her. Well, I'm not going to put that over my head. Boom, he's done. All right, let's kill you now, too. I mean, he does a good job making her a villain, though. That's for sure, throughout the show.
I mean, Is she the villain though? It's already established in the future she gets her brain taken over. So
I mean, she's the villain. She's the villain in the past, where Billy is the villain in the future.
yeah.
It's just such a. I'm trying to think of some other weird shit that goes on in the show that I want to mention. That I mean, it jumps around a lot. Has a lot of different plots happening. You have things that are just weird. You have Jade making really, really bad decisions. Like at one point, after she gets back to university after her whole adventure, where it felt like the ending of the show, and she gets a Zero out of the water. They have a whole bunch of these zombies. They have just frozen in the Atlantic or whatever ocean they're in. They're just sitting in the water.
Oh, this is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen in a television show. It's manufactured drama to its... and
like, lock the door, maybe?
Yeah, because you watch shows sometimes, as people always bring up the whole Star Wars thing and Avengers and Infinity War, where it's like, well, maybe if he didn't do that to Thanos, and it's like, well, he's angry. I think I get it. And I mean, Doctor Strange already said, anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Because the thing about it is, like, you look at people and it's like, people get angry when people don't make the right decisions. And sometimes it's like, well, you kind of have to look at the human condition. But this girl is just an idiot.
Yeah.
And she is experimenting with a zombie, and a little kid walks in and she's like, okay, you stay here. It's like, no, you get the F out here, little kid. I'm going to lock the door. Instead, it's like, no, you stay here because this thing is going to get loose, and
she don't even have a gun.
And then it's going to kill one of her best friend's husbands, and it's like, just kill her.
No, it kills the best friend who's a woman who's pregnant. But they make it a point to say in the episode before, oh, she's pregnant. Oh, nope, not anymore. She's dead.
And it's so manufactured. Like, it's so dumb.
Yeah, at the moment, like, it goes on TV and she's like, oh, this is my friend. And it's like, oh, I'm pregnant. We've been trying so hard to have a kid. And I'm finally like 2 months. And I'm like, oh.
You're dead.
I hope I don't get eaten by a Zero.
But also, like, come on now. What kind of safety precautions were this? Like, and the fact that nobody even, it's just so weird to me. I was like, oh my God. And then they should have just banished her from that point. Like, because I feel like I like the idea that in some zombie fiction where if you fuck up like that, you cost life people, you're done. Like, bye. There is no, you can stay. It's just get the fuck out of here. Because I feel like that's what would have to happen in that type of case. You can't keep people you can't trust. And when somebody brings a zombie into your camp to experiment on and then loses said zombie in said camp, it's time to go bye-bye.
Look, we only had 2 scientists and one gets eaten. We need to keep the other one around, even if we don't like that much.
It's just weird. And like the whole idea that she just left to go experiment and she left far away too. Like, couldn't there have been a closer city that you could investigate that didn't involve you having to cross France and all these other areas just to get back home? Like, I didn't understand that either. Like, she's really far away from home.
But then you don't have a show.
I know. You can make sense
you
otherwise.
could have a better show that doesn't have all this entirely, but for the purposes of this show, you don't have a show.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we make fun of it throughout this, but I just love the idea that Umbrella's just really incompetent too. Like you have where they roll up on like where that area where they know where liquors, and there's a point where I was like, why don't they just if you see Umbrella being attacked by liquors, just shut the fuck up and wait till Umbrella gets obliterated, and then we just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like once it started, the liquors just didn't stop. Like, they started just killing everybody. It was weird.
We have the weird plot. Because
the other part that I had the question of, like, okay, are you just going to sit here and wait till they pass by? Because you can't drive if you can't move, you can't make noise. How do you just sit here forever? Like, it didn't make sense to me what they were doing because the liquors weren't passing by. They just lived in this area of the tunnel, it seemed like. And I thought they were going to have some kind of trap to, like, lure them away. Like, they make noise somewhere else to attract them. But apparently that's not how this works because the noise got them all killed. Oh, it made no sense.
And just the context of the whole thing about, like, the liquors is that they escaped from a lab. So where did they escape from? Like, did they just, I don't know, this whole future. And, like, like Umbrella in this and the movies, it's like the world is over. Why are you still doing mad scientist shit?
Because money. When the world comes back, they'll need leaders, and we will be the leaders.
I guess. And we need someone to make a terrible Master of Unlocking reference.
Oh God, there was one, wasn't there, in this?
Was there?
I think he's right. I can't remember what it is.
I think Barry, I can't remember either, but I know it's kind of cute and Welcome to Raccoon City because they actually used the Jill sandwich line and actually, like, appreciated it. How they squeeze it in there. But again, it's another thing of, like, what's a meme thing like, oh, Master of Unlocking? Okay, put that in there somewhere.
Yeah. Again, this show was made for millennials. And it really feels like that it was made for, well, maybe not even millennial, but whatever the hell the generation is now. I forget. But the TikToker, people that are into TikTok and stuff like that.
That goes even further with the Umbrella stuff too, because there's the weird there's the gimmick episode which they use for the trailers, which I think is actually a weird pull for Umbrella, but I could also be like, oh, I totally see him doing this, which is the joy aspect, where it's like, oh yeah, we made like a super antidepressant where people can be mind controlled, but it's also used with the T virus, and it has like a weird turn because you have like Wesker who's like, I don't want to do this not because it's a bad idea, but because it's not a smart idea.
Yeah, and the idea that you would have to take like 2 billion pills or something ridiculous number to overdose. Yet you see people get infected with the T virus at the same time from the joy. I don't know, there's just a lot of weird shit with that.
And again, if this takes place in like the universe of the Resident Evil universe, oh my god, that was
not really.
Anyway, well, it takes place in the Resident Evil games. They mention like 5 and Raccoon City. So there's a BSAA and there's a Claire Redfield who works for companies to regulate all of this stuff. So if an Umbrella Corporation came back, it's like, we're going to be looking at everything you do with a fine-tooth comb to make sure you're not going to do something evil.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just was weird, too. Like, the whole idea that they made a drug, and then, like, I thought, okay, the drug went... Like, I was expecting, like, the whole... But they never say it in this show, that the reason why there's zeros running around is because of the joy drug they made had the same effect like I Am Legend, where we cure cancer, but we turn everybody into vampire zombies. Like, I thought that's where they were going, but it never explains it because they're waiting for season 2 to tell you more.
Yeah.
That's another issue. Like, this, you could tell this show had so much more plans for it, but, when you get canceled, there goes all your plans.
I don't remember, did they even do anything with the Tyrant? Don't they just tease it and it goes away?
Yeah.
Is the Tyrant in the container, or was that Wesker? No, it was a Tyrant, wasn't it?
No, it was a Tyrant, yeah.
Yeah, they don't do anything with it. I didn't realize that was Tyrant. I thought it was Wesker for some reason. I was like, oh, okay. Why is Wesker white?
It had big fingies, so that was supposed to be the idea that would be a Tyrant.
But I thought they didn't do anything with it.
And why would you even have it in the first place?
I mean, there's a little scene where you have them run into videos from Raccoon City and stuff, and you see Lisa for like one small section, and she has an eye in the back of her, which I thought, okay, he infected her with the G virus, but nothing comes of that either. And then it was all the whole point of they can go so they can convince, oh, you're evil, father. Oh, that wasn't me, but it sounds like me. But oh, it wasn't me. That's my clone. He doesn't say that, but it was just so strange.
While also simultaneously having look, see, we did play some of the games. See, look, there's Lisa, and there's a G virus reference, which I think game-wise doesn't happen. I don't remember. Blair?
She's not infected with G virus because G virus was invented later after the whole Raccoon City incident.
Well, Lisa was just jabbed with literally everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Because that's where they discovered the Nemesis parasite, I think. Yeah. It's been a while because I like going back and playing the 96 Resident Evil over the remake, and I'm probably the only one in the world who does that now.
Probably.
What is it with video game adaptations and their obsession with the Olive Garden?
Sonic?
Oh, there was an Olive Garden reference in this, wasn't there?
Yeah, because like when Weskers, they find out that there's how many Weskers? 3, 4?
They find out there were 4.
And one of them, he thought they were all dead, but one of them was in captivity. And his ultimate place to go to once he escapes is the Olive Garden. And it's like between Sonic and this. Are they just trying to get in on that whole Sonic thing where it's like, oh, Sonic went to the Olive Garden. That made a lot of money. So let's get the Olive Garden here, too.
My guess is Olive Garden is willing to pay to advertise and stuff. And they needed money. That's my guess. So I got nothing else.
Is there another video game movie coming out soon?
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to that anymore.
Well, The Last of Us is coming out, the HBO series.
I don't know about that.
If that's got an Olive Garden joke, then we'll call it 3 for 3, and it's going to be a thing forever now.
No, I think Sony's too up their own butt to do an Olive Garden tie-in.
I'm trying to think any other cool scenes that I want to mention from this show. I mean, the main plot is just goes back and forth. There's the alligator part. You find out that Jade is a psychopath, and you see her experimenting on a lizard at one point. That was weird.
I was wondering what that was. I thought that was Umbrella following them because they kind of tease it in like the 4th or 5th episode.
It's a giant alligator that we have trapped behind us that we experimented on that doesn't actually listen to us.
And then it makes friends with her daughter with big like puppy dog eyes.
And they never explain it because the show ended. That's going to be in season 2.
Oh, they blow it up as well.
Yeah, but I mean, they were going to probably explain why the alligator didn't murder her, and it stops and starts sniffing her instead.
This is like this is like if the second movie was the last movie and it ends on like this really big cliffhanger and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many weird parts that and it kind of bums me that we'll never get. Like, I could have watched a season 2 of this show. After finishing 1, I was like, okay, I could go for another season of this.
Yeah, the main reason why I stopped watching it after I slowly watched it after I originally watched it because I stopped watching after 4, and then they announced that like it got canceled, and that's why I lost interest in it. Because I was like, I don't want to fucking watch this if it's canceled, and then, But then I was like, I'll just force myself to watch it, and I watched like one episode like every other week, and then yeah. And then
I prompted you guys with this episode.
No, Patreon
listeners.
Okay, I really didn't think this was going to win. I thought for sure it was going to be Resident Evil Extinction. I did not think people were going to vote for this.
People voted for this out of spite.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I'm aware. I was on a recording with one person, Kenneth, who voted for this. Like, I'm going to vote this just for out of spite, like you bastard. So, so yeah, I did not think it was going to win at all because I didn't think people actually want to hear. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have watched it otherwise because of all the bad, hate for it that people had. And then I'm actually really glad I watched it. I like things about it. The stuff with Jade, like, I mean, I want to see more about like how fucked up is Jade, like, because there's more to that character. You see your experimental lizard or something. You have the alligator they experimented on that they towed behind them forever. That was like their secret weapon to just murder people, I guess. I don't really know.
She punches some dude in the face for her dog. That was pretty cool.
It was just okay. That was Billy, but yeah, that was cool.
Oh yeah, right, that was Billy. Yeah,
I need proof. Show me your phone. It's like, no, you don't get a phone. Yeah, you get a fist in the face, buddy.
I also like the part where they do like Resident Evil puzzles in their own house. That part was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, that was in the basement. They're pushing the door, and then and you got to find the clues that only they would know. I like there were aspects of the show that were actually pretty cool.
I think it's dumb that Wesker would be smart enough to think like, oh, they go to school. I'm sure a conversation about a basement won't ever come up. It's okay though. I just won't worry about it.
Yeah, like if every house is built the same and every house has a basement, they might wonder, well, why don't we have a basement? It's not it's not like here where I live in the Midwest where houses have basements, but it wouldn't be the weirdest thing if a house didn't have a basement. I mean, it happens. I've looked at houses that didn't have basements. That's just some just don't have it. I'm in a basement per se at the moment, but like not all houses have that. So I get it, but this is different. This is made by a corporation that all made everything, and they all made everything the same. So a little different. Oh, Blair, do you have anything you want to say about the show that we missed?
I know we talked about the clones, but we never really went into Burt Wesker.
Okay.
Because essentially they find out that Wesker had a cabal of himself. And
Fitz Wesker.
The Albert Wesker in this show is like a clone who is actually not a genocidal monster, but there was also one who was named Burt, and he's a good person, but he's also psychotic. Like, he goes to the Olive Garden and like freaks out because they won't get all the breadsticks when he's still eating breadsticks. Again, they are good to the Olive Garden. I don't know. I don't even know if we don't have it in my province, so I've never been. So maybe they're amazing. I don't think so.
They're good. I mean, it's breadsticks. No. I mean, I like Olive Garden a lot personally. So I like the breadsticks, but I did not throw any on the ground when the waitress would not give me more. So I can tell you that.
Because that's like he eventually interacts with the kids and they're like, why are you acting so weird? Because it's actually their uncle Bert, and he's the one who's talking about how he's a clone. The original was a bad man who got blown up in a volcano, which is cute. But again, like, if you're watching this and you know Resident Evil, you're like, oh, that's clever. But if you're just like a person who's like, oh, it's the new Netflix show and it's #1, because I think it was the #1 most viewed show for the week, and they'd be like, what does that mean? That's stupid.
Accurate.
I'm sure if we had gotten another season, it probably wouldn't have been the scene from 5, but it probably would have been something similar.
Yeah, I think we would have gotten good stuff. Like I also like when you first see that, because this show kind of waits a while to show you that Billy survived in the future, and then when you find out she's actually in charge and all that stuff, I think. And then she kidnaps Jade's daughter, because Jade's solution is, okay, I'm gonna go surrender to Umbrella. I want you to run away into a zombie wasteland and take your chances.
So doesn't she have the perfume that repels them?
But she didn't give it to her.
Oh, I can't remember.
She doesn't even have the perfume that repels them with her. She has a perfume that attracts them, which is what causes all the problems at the Umbrella camp, which is also weird. And didn't they have like drones shooting zombies to music, I think it was, or something?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was. I mean, I found out I really have a thing for music and movies.
Oh man, drones shooting at zombies. That almost makes me want to play Reverse, the new multiplayer Resident Evil game on Steam now.
That did not pay us a dime.
Evil Village Gold Edition.
I actually need to play that. I heard that Memory of Rose thing is actually really good.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours long.
Oh.
That's fine.
There's a lot of obnoxious one-hit kill stealth things, but it's pretty good.
I need to replay 7. I still need to play 8 someday. But I'm slowly getting there. I'm trying to get a lot of the old Resident Evil done, and apparently I keep playing remakes too, so I got nothing. One day. Like, I'm doing Resident Evil 3 remake on the show early next year at some point. I have it on the schedule. I don't remember the date, but I really want to play RE3 remake.
I got the platinum, baby.
Well, I'll be contacting you. Don't worry when that comes. And then trying to think some other stuff, like you have like Billy versus Jade near the end, and then Billy escapes in the helicopter with Jade's daughter. Jade gets back in the boat, I think, is how it ended. No, Jade gets shot and she just left there dying. That's how it ended.
Oh God, unneeded cliffhangers.
I was pissed. Oh, and then the kid part ending is them getting the letter for Ada Wong, and they get into a car and they're like, we're gonna, and they were told to go see Ada, and that's where that ends.
The character known to have a permanent residence and easily to contact, who has a history of working with Wesker.
And who has a history of known for being a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the show wasn't trying to... But I mean, overall, it was entertaining. Like, I mean, I felt the show itself was... I was entertained for the most part while doing other stuff. I know, that's bad. But, like, it was fun. Like, I looked forward to watching it. Like, oh, good, I'm going to watch a little bit of an episode today. All right.
Like I said, I think what sours me most on the show is like the fact that it was canceled after the first season, and that the show, because I actually was enjoying the show, and if the show hadn't ended on like multiple cliffhangers, like it just like, oh, we were hoping we get a second season but didn't, I would have been like, okay, so the show was actually still pretty good. But man, all those
just it needed. I wish it would have wrapped up things but left some openings to but not like big cliffhangers like it did. Like you can leave openings for another season without leaving your show in a situation where it sucks if you don't get more. I've watched shows that done it before. Like, oh, get excited for next season, but you at least have a conclusion of some sort, not just, well, people are in disarray, daughter's missing, main character got shot in the gut. Goodbye, you'll never know.
There's another show on Netflix that was like, it's like a French show that was also a horror one. And like the show ends with the main character being pregnant, but they don't explain why. And it's like, oh, I looked it up. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to explain why in the next season, but it got canceled. So I'm like, oh, that sucks.
And that's just, again, like I bring it up, because when I was thinking about recently, I was writing about something, and I was thinking of like the first Iron Man when that came out, and how it was like an all or nothing play where it's like, we just have to make this the best it can be, because if it isn't a success, no harm, no foul. But if it is, it turns into the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And like this show is like, we can be mid. We're gonna get a second season. And I think like that would have been Netflix 2 or 3 years ago. But now Netflix can't afford to greenlight everything for like 2 or 3 seasons, like because they're losing subscribers and bleeding money because they don't have anything. Because the entertainment now is based on IP, and Netflix has Stranger Things, and that's it. Like they don't have Marvel, they don't have DC, they don't have Jurassic Park, they don't have the Fast and the Furious. Like
Warner. To be fair, Warner Brothers doesn't know what DC is, so
that's true.
I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't know what DC is, I should say.
But they still made Peacemaker, and that's what matters.
I probably should cover that.
I didn't watch that actually, but that's not true either, Blair. Netflix doesn't just have Stranger Things. They just started showing their 6th season of Big Mouth.
What
Oh,
the
I
fuck is
forgot
going on?
about that.
Oh god, is that terrible cartoon
It's
sex
actually
ed thing?
It's actually pretty
okay.
good. Yeah.
Oh god, I watched one episode of it and I was like, "Bleh." This is
I
what
didn't
think of it.
even know it was out, and like I get emails from Netflix being like, "You want to watch this?" I'm like, "No." But then it was like, "Oh, this thing is out," but I'm just like, I'm rewatching Justice League Unlimited right now.
Oh, is that on HBO Max?
Well,
Yes.
in Canada, it's on a
Oh,
substation of Prime Video called Teletoon Plus, and that's how I'm watching it because we don't have HBO Max up here.
okay. I wouldn't mind watching that again. That's a really good show.
Oh, it's one of the best shows ever created.
Yeah, it really is. I love Justice League Unlimited.
Never seen it, but I'm starting it. So.
You should. You'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah. I started. I need a new show to watch, so I started. HBO has the entire Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, so I decided to start watching that.
I'm so blue. That will make sense.
Oh, I just watched that. Oh,
I know what episode that was. It's a good
Okay. It's so good. Oh god. Okay, I want to watch that now. I've been meaning to rewatch that. Like, God, I love that. I love the Superman. What Superman says in one of those episodes. Like, I always got to hold back, but with you, tough guy, I don't have to hold back. I can let loose. Oh god, that show's good. I'm gonna go watch that now at some point. All right, I'm trying to think. I mean, I also think this Resident Evil show would have been better if it didn't try to connect with the games. It was just like the movies, and like we're in our own universe. We're doing our own thing. I think it would have been better.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to connect because that ruined it.
And
yeah,
just have-
I'm okay with that too because people are mad with the movies about that, and like I'm okay with them being fast and loose because essentially like Resident Evil is just this. You know, there's like an umbrella corporation and biohazards and bioweapons and outbreaks and things like that. And I mean, they did Welcome to Raccoon City last year, and they did take some weird liberties with characters, like turning Leon into like Gomer Pyle.
Yeah,
But I feel bad for that actor because he got dogpiled on. No one deserves to be dogpiled on.
he's a good actor too.
If you know, like if they just were making Resident Evil 1, like horror is based on the unknown. And if they made Resident Evil 1, it's like, he's the bad guy, here's what it is, I already know about all this. So when they just make their own things, like you have that. But you have to make that interesting out the gate because there's so many distractions for everyone nowadays from like video games and movies, other shows. So if you have something that's like, yeah, this, like, listen to this. Like, if something is mid-tier, then you're just going to bounce, and then you don't get your season 2, so...
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to mention about the show that has anything that we missed that I think is worth mentioning really fast.
That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I think I mentioned everything that I was interested about. I mean, I really like the idea of seeing the world in different places, and you see the different ways humans are living. I did really like that, but I always like that in stuff like this. I like seeing how humans are surviving in an apocalypse world.
Yeah, I even like the whole idea of the university being like a bunch of people who are collecting like stuff from the old world, because if anything, if it ever stops, we have to have a point to get back with. So
yeah, I like to think that if that ever happened, somebody would be collecting this podcast. I like to think that. I don't know if that would be true, but I like to think that. Someone's like, hey, I used to listen to this podcast. Like, here, we got to save this. It's pretty funny.
Just grab every episode you've ever recorded, Mike, and just put them all on a couple of discs and put them in like a safe, with a combination card into it.
They're on a external hard drive that's waterproof and shockproof that I have in my drawer. That's where they all are at this point. So the world ever ends, somebody will maybe find my hard drive of random, like, hey, what is a podcast? You'll have over 1,000 episodes at that point, maybe more. Who knows when the end of the world will happen? But so, all right, I think I'm running out of things to say. All right, let's go to shelf, stack, or box, and I'll go first. This is actually going to go in the stack because I enjoyed myself. Will I ever watch this again? No, probably not. Had it had a second season, I would have been on board for season 2 right away. I would have been there day one, Netflix. Okay, I'll watch it. But I mean, because it had my interest, it got me. It wasn't what I wanted, but it got me interested. Like I mostly enjoyed what I was watching. I had a good time, and I'm bummed that this show, had such a bad reception, and it was the bad reception that turned me off to the point that I didn't even bother to watch it at first. So because people were hating on it, and it doesn't deserve the hate, but it's going to go in the stack. But I am glad that people voted for it, because I'm glad that I watched it. What about you, Blair?
I would put this in the box because I don't. I appreciate them doing something different, but the thing about you have to be more than different. And again,
Gotta be good.
We've touched on this a lot throughout the episode where you just can't assume that you're going to get a sequel. Like, you have to be good out the gates. And this just feels like it's something that's trying to cater to everyone. And again, it caters to no one. And it's Netflix being like, what IPs can we get? Oh, Resident Evil, cool. People know that name. They'll watch it, but they didn't. I think they did for the first week.
Yeah.
It was like the most watched thing on Netflix, but then it plummeted. And I think a couple of years ago, again, it would have got a season 2. But now even something like Sandman that's critically acclaimed
and really damn good.
I haven't seen it.
Have you read the comic?
No, I haven't. So
you'll still enjoy it.
Yeah, I've a bunch of stuff like that. That's fine, but like
it's really good.
That wasn't guaranteed for season 2.
No.
So
still isn't. Sucks. It needs to be.
I thought they did, but I couldn't.
Nothing official from an actual account. I mean, there's stuff that says, "Oh, yeah, season 2," that pops up very often, but none of it's like from what I've heard in comments. It's like not official. Like people just make an account and say, "Oh, yeah, it's it's nothing official yet. It's been greenlit for season 2."
And it's something that I was going to bring up and I forgot. I think Netflix has really shot themselves in the foot with the whole binge model.
Yeah,
because I can hate watch an hour of TV a week, but trying to binge it to avoid spoilers is a pain in the butt. Like Halo came out earlier this year, and that had stuff in it that I did like, but most of it was pretty bad. But when it's an hour a week, it's more palatable than just like, okay, I have to knock this out or else. Because I think like even the first weekend of this, I started seeing spoilers all over the place. Not that it really mattered or anything.
But no, it's a model that it was a cool model at first, but one of the issues with it too is then your show is talked about for a week and then people move on to the next thing, where if you do something where it comes out weekly, then people are going to talk about it over the course of months. And I think I like models of TV now, like how Disney Plus is doing it with their shows, where you get like 2 or 3 episodes to start with sometimes, and then you just get an episode a week after that. And so you keep talking about it, you keep looking forward to it. Like for me, I'll watch all Mandalorian as it comes out, then I'll watch it again when the whole thing's over, and then I record about it. Same thing I'm doing the Andor. Like it has a more positive effect, I think.
Unless you're Stranger Things, you make an 80s pop song like a hit song that's still being played on the radio.
Running up that hill. That was a good season though.
It really was a good season.
All right, and what about you, Joe? Shelf stacker box.
I'm gonna go ahead and have to put this on the stack. Yeah, I didn't like it at first, but rewatching it made me kind of like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I also had the bad experience of getting 3 episodes in because I watched it like maybe a week or 2 after it came out, and then they announced it was canceled, and I'm like, well, shit, and I hate it because of that. And we talk about it a lot in the show, but it's true. Having it leave on a cliffhanger also really fucks up the whole like quality of the show as well.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
As the watcher.
I'd probably use it as oh man, Joe, those Resident Evil movies were really bad. Oh yeah, well check this shit out. Because I still think the movies are pretty high tier, like video
movies
game
are not. All but 3, I think, are really good movies that I've seen. I've never seen 6, but I remember liking 4 and 5.
The only one I outright hate is the 6th one, and that's because it's, well, for one, someone died making it, which is, God, that's terrible. Not only did you die, but you died for the sake of making Resident Evil the final chapter. And then it's shot like the director was on like cocaine. It has so many quick cuts, and then the story just doesn't make any sense. In a series of movies, it doesn't make any sense.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm purposely waiting to watch it for the first time when we do it for this show.
I like 6 a lot, actually. 6, like I think I like all the movies in general. I think the only one I don't like, because I don't remember it that well, is like 4.
4 is the prison, but I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. What I remember most is the Red Letter media reacts to the Wesker fight where Rich Evans just like dies laughing.
Well, it was very much 3D time. 3D was a big thing at the time, and that's what that movie is about.
So I'm going to spoil that. People laugh at that scene, but I think there's a worse scene in the 6th movie. And I'm going to spoil probably the only one moment of that, which is they introduce Ruby Rose as a side character for that movie. And this is when she was like really big in Orange is the New Black, and everyone was in love with her and all this other stuff. and there's like a scene in the movie where she gets absorbed. Like they're like in a fan hallway, and they turn the fans on, and she loses her grip, and Mia Jovovich grabs onto her, and like the music swells, and like people are crying, and she's like, "Don't let go!" And she lets go, and Ruby Rose flies in the fans, and then they stop, and I'm like, I couldn't give less of a shit right now.
I am excited to watch it. Like, I was kind of bummed that Extinction didn't win because I really wanted to cover Extinction.
Me too. I love that movie.
It's gonna happen. Don't worry. It just means it got pushed back until I get a few other shit done I got planned. So it's okay. Not gonna bother me. This probably wouldn't have happened without people voting for it. So, all right. If you want to hear more Resident Evil, we've covered 14 other episodes. We have Resident Evil Revelations, episode 197, Resident Evil Apocalypse, film 41, Resident Evil Survivor, mini 28, Resident Evil 2, the 98 version, Recover 9, Resident Evil 2002, the film 19, Resident Evil 4, episode 129, Resident Evil 2, the 2019 version, 94, episode 94, Resident Evil Outbreak, episode 73, Resident Evil Dead Aim, episode 70, Resident Evil Nemesis, the original one, episode 63, Resident Evil G-Generation, film 4, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, episode 37, Resident Evil, the remake 2002 version, episode 33, and Resident Evil 2, the first time we covered it, episode 9. That's a lot of Resident Evil. Well, I think one last thing, or there's two things I want to mention about the show before we wrap this up that I forgot about. One, there's a COVID reference in here, which made me laugh, where she's like, do I need to quarantine? He's like, it's not COVID. I'm like, you amuse me, but it was terrible at the same time.
When did this come out after COVID? Like a couple months?
This is 2022, right?
Yeah, this is in the now times.
Oh, God. This came out this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
It came out in July.
Oh, fuck. Time is an illusion.
And we're recording this on October 30th of 2022.
Yeah. Such a timely, in a world where there's viruses that turn people into mutants and we have them eradicate entire cities and bioweapons are rampant, that sure, that would exist in this universe.
And then another thing I want to mention is there was a trailer before this came out that had like a billboard I saw with like liquor climbing around the billboard. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, that was a cool billboard.
Yeah, and all the hype for this show, and it went. Yeah. And Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me at Twitter. On Twitter, rather, at Blarcade for the time being. Anyways, we'll see how that platform goes. And unless it's bought by another sleazy billionaire, you can find me at comicbookvideogames.com, where I review such things as Gotham Knights, which is 2,000 words long, and maybe read that before you buy.
Can't believe Umbrella bought Twitter.
I would believe it.
I don't know. I mean, I was happy when it fell through, and then they made him buy it for some reason, and then he fired people that made him buy it.
Then he had to pay them money.
Yeah, he fired like the people in charge, and they're the people that made him buy it, essentially.
That's like the third time he's done that. He fucking sucks. And now I'm banned on Twitter.
I use Twitter for this show, but that's really about it. So yeah, I enjoy it though. I just use Twitter, yeah, just to post, mainly just post stuff for the podcast. That's it. So it doesn't. I mean, I'm not happy he bought it, but it won't stop me from posting stuff to promote the show because that's what I live for apparently now. So yeah, I mean that's what it feels like, and I love it. All right, and if you enjoyed the show, it was almost. I think, okay, by the time you hear this, will be over 400 episodes of games my mom found to go listen to, of random stuff that we post. Go listen to our Resident Evil. Go just check out our giant catalog. We cover movie, comics, TV shows, games. I cover all sorts of stuff. Whatever the hell I feel like doing, I convince people to talk with me. So go check out our giant catalog. If you enjoyed this episode, there's a lot more. I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fear. You can follow her on TikTok. And it's at the top of the episode. This episode was brought to you by Patreon. People voted for us to watch this crap. So go for Little Dollar. You can vote in our Patreon polls. The current November poll will be for Christmas movies that aren't Christmas movies. Batman Returns, Gremlins, Ghostbusters 2, or Lethal Weapon. You can vote for. That will be in that poll. Out by the time you hear this. You'll see links everywhere. So go do that. Little as $1. You can vote. You bring me happiness to support the show. And also want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who's his own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. He interviews people how video games affect their lives. Really good show. Definitely check him out. And we have a Discord. You can join our Discord and chat with us. So please go do that. You see a link in the show notes to that too. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube, where I post what's going on with the show and images of upcoming stuff. And go check it all out. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.